So I think, oh, this is not the right agenda, I'm so sorry.
Besides Lorraine.
No.
Oh. What are we supposed
What are we
to
supposed
do?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
I looked at her. I will not respond.
All right. So, good morning, everyone. It is 2 minutes after 8:30, so I am officially already starting late. So let me kind of speed through so I can get back on time. I just want to introduce myself. My name is George Redmond. I am the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council Chair. Guess we can go through kind of quickly and see who all's here. Also, just give a brief introduction of who you are. I'll start with to my right, Mr. Babowski.
Hi, Andy Babowski, community member. Marcus Mescla, I'm the new juvenile court counselor.
I am Mary Drinkwater, a court counselor supervisor.
I'm Susanna Knox, and I'm covering for my colleague Scott Dennis today in the public defender's office. So this is my first meeting, but he filled me in a little bit.
Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you.
I'm Hannah Ledgerton, Youth Justice Division Manager and JCPC support.
Bianca Whitner, community member.
D. Tyrell Mecker with Asheville Parks and Recreation.
Craig Loveland, Asheville Police Department.
Jonathan Brown with Asheville Police Department.
Elizabeth Kraft, community member.
Angel Redmond, community member.
And back here,
Ava Vaughn with Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program.
Lindsay Holland, I'm a business administrator for Buncombe County Justice Services.
I'm Matt Nannis, I'm a diversion program representative.
I'm Angelica Tyler. I work with the county's communications department, and I'll be live streaming this meeting.
all right.
And we have our wonderful Mo.
Hi.
Hey, Mo.
Mika Alexander, I'm administrative support for Justice Services Department.
And if we have a sign-in sheet that Mo will use to help please make sure you sign in. That helps us be able to do the coffee and bagels, and we can thank Mo for that too.
Thank you, Mo.
And then online, let's see, we've got take down my screen for a moment so you can see folks. We've got Angie Gardner.
Angie Garner via Health.
Angie, you wanna pass it to someone else?
Jeremy.
Our screen that we can throw out there. And,
Hey, I'm Jeremy Bricker, Area Director for Family Preservation Services, as well as Access Family Services in Buncombe County. Lorraine?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lorraine Williams. I'm the area consultant that works with the Buncombe JCPC, and it's good to see you all, even if not in person this morning.
be safe out in Wyoming, Lorraine.
It is Wyoming. Unfortunately, that's not where I am.
Let's see, Cece is here.
Hi, I'm Cece Weston, and I am a community member. Let's see, Anderson Davis.
Anderson Davis Partners Unlimited.
Good morning. Let's see, Commissioner Moore.
Good morning, Martin Moore, Buncombe County Commission, and I will pass it to Eric Robinson if he hasn't been called.
Mr. Robinson, we can see that you're here, can't hear you, but you're welcome to communicate in the chat if you need anything. And then let's see, we've got Robin Fraser.
Hi, this is Robin Fraser. I'm the Associate Executive Director with Aspire Youth and Family, and I will throw it to Kim Castano.
Good morning, this is Kim Castano from Aspire, and I'm the Executive Director.
Is there anybody else online that we've missed?
Good morning, Sergio Fernandez for Aspire.
Good morning, Sergio. I believe that's it.
That's it. I do know that we had a couple people that come through a little bit later. We were speaking with each other. I'll first introduce.
It's Dotson Smith, Smitty, Family Court Rotation, thank you.
Thank you.
Life McCoy, Buncombe DA's office.
And I believe we had people that are going to be presenting. Is that correct? That came through over here in the end?
Moja and Unitaz.
Okay.
You want to?
Dr. Ross, is that right?
Dr. Armstrong, Noria Armstrong, Buncombe County, Chief Equity Human Rights Officer.
All right, so with the introductions, we can move on to the agenda. The next part of our agenda will be reviewing the actions, the minutes that we've had previous to today's meeting. If I'm not mistaken, Hannah, we have multiple things that we need to approve. Is that right? Review?
Yes, there are minutes from our full JCPC Council meeting February 15th, from our allocations hearing in March, and from our special JCPC session towards the end of March that I sent out yesterday. So hopefully folks had a chance to at least glance at those and let me know if there's any edits or feedback.
And thank you, Hannah, for sending those out. Again, there's about 3 minutes that you'll need to be reviewing. If you haven't reviewed them already, and I had sent them out by email. If you want to take time right now to review them, has anyone not reviewed them? And if so, that's okay. We're not pointing the fingers. We just want to take time.
I thought in the past we listed if you attended or not, everybody, it looks like we're changing that format, so I just kind of wanted to.
And I need to update the attendance list. I'm sorry for not mentioning that. I will confirm with Mo that we have all of those and then get them back to you all as well. So if you want,
Well, and I really just was kind of querying, because I feel like it's important in the minutes that we have enough for a quorum and that you need to be able to maybe say that on the minutes itself. Whichever way you want to do it stylistically, I think that may be up to our therapist leadership. But
typically we do need to have that documented. I think because we have started live streaming, there's been a tiny bit of wiggle room because there's recorded live streamed documentation of everybody here, but it's also my intention.
What I'm hearing is you're going to make me out myself, which is I really need to make sure I know which one I am, because I don't like voting on minutes when I'm not here. That's really what I'm saying.
I mean, with that being said, do you want to, is it possible to wait until we get those for the next go around? I mean, that would be now an additional, so that'd be 4. But it also give time for people who didn't raise their hand and didn't read the minutes to allow them to review and potentially just update that with the attendees at that point. Yes, sir.
We haven't read the minutes, we haven't received them, and that's not your fault. Things more within our agency, but if someone could send us the minutes, I'd love to look at them real quick.
Yes, absolutely.
And do I make a motion to move that off? I need to hear a motion to move those minutes and review of that action off of this agenda so they can be put on for the next.
So moved.
Second. All right, so we'll move those off. We'll get those updated, the attendee list, and the next go around we will have 4 to review. So make sure everyone's up and wanting to read those. So now we'll move on to the introduction of DJJ.
All right, not too many updates today. Complaints are slowly trickling in. We are almost fully staffed. We only have one vacancy. Yay. Yeah. Yes. We are continuing to strongly encourage the school justice partnership, and then we are preparing for the upcoming e-court transition this summer. And this is our newest court counselor.
Yeah, Marcus Meskel, nice to meet everybody.
Marcus, thank you for being here today.
Appreciate it, thank you.
So e-course, I was going to kind of explain, and Black's here as well, and all of y'all are right in a row, so it makes kind of perfect sense, right? How's this going to affect, the courts are going to go down somewhat for what, June, July, and August?
Courts never go down.
They never, they shrink.
There may be a delay in systems.
Yes, but never go down.
We are open.
We're just keeping the dockets very small.
Yes. So I'm assuming that would be spread off, I guess, at some point later on. Is that looking at, have y'all heard from other entities that have started e-courts and how that?
Not specifically as to how it affects
Yeah.
juvenile, but in general, I've heard that, yeah, it's a huge process that quite some time before we're moving smoothly.
Messy.
Yeah, messy.
I think they've worked out some of the kinks, especially I think with Mecklenburg, because it's such a big county. But we are hearing a lot of complaints from the folks in Mecklenburg about how slow it is. to
And
have
it's
to use
just
that system.
digitizing the records, which is needed.
Yeah.
It's just going through those growing pains we're about to feel this summer.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have heard some good things too, which is like you can go online and have access to, your whole file. And I think that that's going to be fantastic. But the biggest complaint I've heard, and you've probably heard more about it, is that when you're in court trying to handle a lot of cases at once, there's you get a lot of the spinning circle thing and you can't move on to the next case quickly enough. So I don't know if you've heard
That's
other.
pretty much what
Yeah.
I've heard. So I think for daily it shouldn't be, I would think, as bad in juvenile settings, lower case numbers, but the bigger case courtrooms, it's just constant waiting. But
I think one of the, I've been to Mecklenburg and talked to them when they were right before they implemented, and then I have gone to Wake and sat in with some of a couple of judges to sort of see what they were doing with it. I think that it's really important for our public to know that, there's trainings available that are called File and Serve, and then there's portal trainings, and those are things that people can access even in May, June, and July. It's gonna change the nature of anybody who's in the public trying to come into something. But as to what I would call the court personnel, the other issue that I think is really important is to recognize that there's a particular definition of file by these e-court transitions. And it is not necessarily what you think of as the record, because the record might include evidence, might include briefs, court filings that aren't official filings for the court file. And so access is going to be great in terms of hopefully dates and when you're supposed to be somewhere. But I think it's going to be a learning curve to understand what you actually have full access to versus when you still need to come down to the courthouse to look at something. And that's overlaid with the confidential cases such as juvenile and child welfare. So there's going to be, I think, a vocabulary change that's really significant from my legal perspective for anyone who is familiar with what you think when you go into a courthouse and you open a file and there things are, or there's stuff next to it. Everything on the e-system is different. They do not ingest evidence, is how it's been phrased. Enterprise does not ingest evidence.
Sounds like fun.
Patience and it's gonna be, and the other thing to just know in June, this goes live July 22nd, and the clerks are gonna be working their tail off in overtime into a whole new foreign system, and the patience we need from the public to understand that this is coming and we all have to get with it, and it will be great on the other side, but people will be exhausted when we start, because that's what we're doing now with all the training.
I mean, it's good expectations for the public to know. I mean, it's about to slow down even slower. You're saying it's not gonna affect the juvenile system? Will we always have a judge for family court, or is it just one judge in district court for?
So that's a different kind of question. Now, that's the, and I wanna keep you on track.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have a lot of transitions in Buncombe County coming the next couple of years, because at the end of December, our chief district court judge will be, who is beloved and has served us well, will be leaving, as will Judge Dre, who is beloved and has served his community well. The chief justice has to pick the new district court judge. That is the person who's going to decide the rotation. Now, there will be a rotation that Judge Hill has to put out. That is what he is proposing and suggesting. That doesn't have as much to do with e-courts as what our needs are in the system. That usually comes out a few months ahead of time, like 6 months ahead of time. So we will see in June, July, what the preview is for January to June. That goes to your district court judge question.
Thank you. Angel?
So I believe this was the first school year where the lower level offenses were kind of put back on the school district. Was there like a reach out just to see how that was going, specifically with the vaping and the THC pens?
I would say it depends on which particular, maybe like SRO at which school you're working at. Like some of them are really good to put interventions in place with the school justice partnership. And then some SROs and principals are still saying, we have no idea what y'all are talking about. So we're still, I still feel like we're still doing a lot of education around school justice partnership. And, I think like we've talked at previous meetings, some are on board and some aren't, but just keep putting the message out there.
I think for me as a community member, the biggest concern is around the vaping and not really knowing how to give appropriate consequences. So then when you take away like the big level of fear, then is that level of addiction continuing, because that part is gone and it's back on the school. So I would hope that there would be just some check-in just to see, so we could kind of prepare ourselves for where this next generation is going to be heading.
And I will say that, and I hope that we can get with APD, the plan is for Buncombe County Sheriff's Office SROs, we analyze all that over the summer. Since this will be the first full year, they're gonna come with all this data and hopefully we'll be able to ascertain these new types of things that hopefully have gone back to school, what that looks like. Obviously a growing pain, so we're going through it, but we should be able to provide a little bit more information as to that a little bit later. Yes.
I'd like to chime in on that a little bit from teen court's perspective. We do accept these referrals for low-level offenses like truancy, possession of a vape, possession of a THC vape. And something that we've been doing is clients that come through with these charges and participate in teen court, if there is a repeat of the same offense while they're on contract with teen court, we are able to put them on to the next level of intervention, which would be our Earn and Learn program, which is under Buncombe Alternatives, where instead of having the option for a maximum of 20 hours community service, if you're not following through with what the program's for, you get the max 20 hours of that community service and you start over with the Earn and Learn program doing more community service in the area, so that we're not putting them back on the school immediately if they fail right off. I'm using finger quotes for those of you online. So I just wanted to say that out loud, because we are noticing the same things that you're asking about in our program with these school justice partnership direct referrals. I would also like to add that Asheville City Schools has been sending a lot of them our way, and it feels really good so far. So we'll have all that data at the end of the school year to share with you guys as well.
And I'll add it really quickly. Sometimes, I mean, in the past, we've done trash pickup with community service, and we pick up a lot of like cigarette butts sometimes, especially if a kid smokes cigarettes. I don't know, it might not connect with vaping, but you know, sometimes there is a way to kind of connect it. We'll see.
And it's good to know, because I mean, most people, when you think earn and learn, you think that someone has restitution, right? And that they're in that program because they're doing volunteer service for monies that they owed based on whatever charges they've accrued, right? But in actuality, there's some sort of still component of giving back, even in the substance abuse sort of issue that comes to your way.
Correct. Thank you.
Is this also where we can have referrals to the Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program? I feel like when we have the repeated users of the substances, that community service may not be what addresses that situation, and that we need to look more towards some therapeutic assistance. Can that happen like towards the Buncombe County Youth Justice? Can teen court refer to Buncombe County Youth Justice for the?
It is my understanding that yes, absolutely. And that would be a part of what we would recommend in a higher level of care is needed for this client. We recommend that they continue doing community service through our program and also receive an assessment through the name of the place you just said, which I can't remember. Even though you said it. Sorry. Yes,
Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program.
Youth Justice Clinical Program, yes.
And when you say recommend, that means they have the ability to say no?
Correct.
So how can we change that up? And where it's.
They all have ability to say no, unless it's adjudicated and it's ordered by the court and judge. Correct, if I'm wrong. I mean, that's the problem. It becomes, if you want to put it back in the community, you're giving them the opportunity to fix themselves. They may or they may not.
To throw one thing out, even if someone is court involved, they still have the opportunity to be.
Correct,
Right?
yes, I say that, thank you.
And just to keep the chair sort of on track with time too on this, I will say that we're trying to get, Chief Hill has been clear, we've talked, we want to have 2 more school justice partnerships before the end of December. So I'll be working with Ms. Ledgerton. I'm just now trying to overlay that with the other added meetings and trainings before the Google poll goes out for school justice, but that may be the better area and forum to cover some of these spaces too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
you. If I can just briefly, and certainly understand the time scenario, Angel, I think that your question in regarding to where we are and the things that we're doing is certainly between DJJ and the School Justice Partnership for our organization. It has been difficult to with these growing pains to document. How are we documenting? How do I get to know whether the SRO is, instead of providing a petition or a complaint, whether we're using school justice partnership? So that is something that we're trying to feel out, at least over at the APD side, because we need numbers. And without those numbers, I can't present to you those numbers or the school justice partnership. So we're trying to really figure out exactly what that is. And you know, with the teen court and the clinical group, I just went to that. Sorry if I offended anyone. You know, with those referrals and the ability to deny them, you know, we have to try to really determine how do we go about once does that juvenile get lost in the system because they just say I'm not going to teen court, and it comes back to the school because that was the determination, we're going to go teen court. Well, do we go petition at that point? You know, so there's a lot to really figure out, you know, and love the partnership and love the idea of it. But it's just really trying to determine how do we all work together to get to the point where we're doing the best we can for the juvenile.
And it will take time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really great conversation though.
Yes.
This is exciting to hear in this movie.
As we move on, thank you, Mary, for that DJJ update. As we move on to the FY 2024-2025 allocations, the next part of our agenda, again, is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council released an RFP for the remaining funds that we had from Buncombe Alternative Structure Day for the amount of $66,893. When we listed that RFP, the program types that we had were comprehensive clinical assessments, individual group counseling, substance use counseling, restorative services, restorative justice, tutoring, academic enhancement, mentoring. So those are the types of programs we felt hit priorities for this RFP that we wanted to see. We did have applications. We do have individuals here from those programs that have applied. Those applications came from Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program, Moja, Nete, Aspire, and Pivot Point. And they have applied for those funds. What we will have is a brief program presentation from all of them anytime we have any questions after they present. I will note, and I believe Lorraine can also assist as well, we do have Pivot Point here. I will say, when I spoke with Lorraine, I think Matt does as well, I think the application for Pivot Point went for, Matt, what was it that y'all had, the program type that y'all had went?
Initially,
Yeah,
it was interpersonal skill building.
interpersonal skills. So initially, Matt, Pivot Point, I just want to let y'all know before he presents, and also we'll need to decide on that, but his program type that he put in his application wasn't one of the ones that we had. So we'll need to make a decision about that. If that motion be made to fix that. It's only a technical piece of the application to fit in with one of the programs we have with RFP. I still wanted him to present. Some of those things get missed sometimes, that technical program piece, the application. We still think, and he'll be able to present as to why it should fall in within one of the programs that are listed before, but I wanted to put that on y'all's radar that will be something that will need to be addressed. We want to include Pivot in this application and allocation process. Hopefully everyone's had time to be able to look at the RFP. As you can see listed on the agenda, there are the program types. And at this point, I believe we can start with the program presentations. We can first start with, we can just go down the line. We'll start with Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program. Just briefly kind of present and let us know how things are going.
So, as you know, we do CCAs and we also have the counseling component that includes group and individual. I think everyone here knows about the comprehensive clinical assessment, so I want to talk a little more about the groups and what those look like. So the groups are for court-involved or at-risk youth. The timeline for the groups is approximately 6 months following the SPEP guidelines of 24 weeks or 40 hours. They are for 12 to 17-year-olds. One group consists of about 6 to 8 individuals, but it could be as few as 2 to get started. They are open groups, meaning that an individual can join at any time along the timeline. The goal of group counseling is to offer counseling services for the youth to learn about their behaviors or environment and how to make real change. The 3 main groups that I have planned are CBT, stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy Group, DBT, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy Group, and then a matrix group, which is very substance use focused. Although all of the groups will cover a lot of similar topics like relationship skills, emotion regulation, and even substance use. Also trauma, what is that? What does it look like? Big T, little t. The matrix is very much substance abuse focused. So CBT, you'll have the introduction to CBT, what is it, acclimate the youth to what that is and what it looks like and the purpose of it. They will learn about mindfulness. They will learn about thoughts, feelings, and actions and the relationship that our thoughts have with our feelings and actions. You'll learn about things like behavioral activation, how our actions can also impact our thoughts and feelings. You'll learn about thought distortions and emotion regulation. DBT, for those that aren't familiar, is a form of CBT. But they have a lot of acronyms and very practical, useful skills for you to hold on to. A popular one is the STOP acronym. So S is for stop, don't react. T is for take a moment, maybe breathe, take a walk. O is for observe, so notice what's happening. And then P stands for proceed mindfully. So there's a lot of those skills that people can put in their toolbox. So for the DBT group, you would have the intro to DBT. What is it? What does it look like? How can it help? Also mindfulness, connecting the mind-body experience, interpersonal skills, emotion regulation, very specifically distress tolerance. How do we handle challenging situations, that discomfort, and then putting it all together. Each group will have a check-in, will engage in a mindful or grounding activity. We will review homework. They will be assigned some kind of workbook or tool to use for those sessions, each one, CBT, DBT, and Matrix. Then we'll introduce a new concept, maybe practice it, discuss it, and then we'll do a wind down and closing of this session. Yeah, so that's what groups are gonna look like. Does anyone have any questions about groups?
Just again, are they meeting once a week, twice a week? What's the
Yes.
expectation?
Yes, so they can meet once a week. It might be more realistic depending on circumstances and situation, like where we are meeting, to be every other week, but no less than every other week for the
After school?
duration.
After school hours, or are they having them in school?
So it can happen in the school. I've spoken with Kim Robinson and also Shannon Martin about what that would look like at the school. It can happen at the school.
During school hours or as an after-school
Either,
opportunity?
either, yeah. So they are exploring what that might look like for them, for Buncombe County and Asheville City, and which schools and what those specific needs are, but we are discussing that.
And these are in person or?
Yes,
they are
in person. There is a telehealth option, but only for very, a case-by-case situation.
Are there therapists that are already assigned for these, to lead these groups?
Yes.
Any context or any sessions that will include family members to address the systems?
No, but the primary adult associated with the youth is involved in the treatment planning from the beginning. So there will be some kind of contact. An individual component is there, like I mentioned, even though I'm just touching on groups here. And so the individual is there, the individual counseling component is there for those who a group setting might not be most appropriate at that time. And that would be more likely where we could bring in a family member, as it fits.
How many students have you all served since January, just looking at this year?
So we've been contracting with From the Ashes, and I think that number, I wanna say, is 16 for group overall. I have not run a group. These are the groups that I have just planned to begin.
Is there a way to shorten it? I know you mentioned 6 months, but I'm just thinking like with our Juveniles coming in on a diversion contract, that's just 6 months max. So if they're on a diversion and then they get assessed and then they get assigned to a group, I don't see any way that they're gonna be able to successfully complete a program if you're talking an additional 6 months a group. So I don't know if there's a way to shorten that.
Right. I'm not sure honestly, because those are the SPEP guidelines, is 24 weeks or 40 hours. So if they can meet that in a shorter time frame, then that might be possible.
40 hours is the guideline.
I think some of the other programs have worked with Lorraine to figure out how to do that. I know Pivot Point has been working with Lorraine on that for some of their programs.
And how do we get juveniles to you?
Yeah, so we're also working on what that process would look like for the schools. Right now, we're looking at the school counselor making a recommendation. And I don't know what that process or flow would look like between the SROs and the school counselors at the schools yet.
But someone could reach out to you.
Sure, anyone can reach out to me to discuss an avenue to have a youth admitted.
Is there a component, Mary, with you that you would refer them?
I'm sorry,
Is there a component that that DJJ would refer them to these groups?
Yeah, we could, like if a kid's coming in on a diversion contract or in court, we can refer for groups. I think it would be a good option especially for our kids that have private insurance or no insurance, to be able to get services.
And these services are at no cost to the youth and their family.
So I assume that like with everything else, this is something that the youth can say no to.
It is.
Because having worked with teenagers for a long time, you know, there's always that this is bullshit moment and I'm out of here. And so what happens then? What happens when they bail?
Right, well, they bail and then they have to handle the natural consequence that comes with that. They can always be readmitted, so they can change their mind and they can come back around. But you know, the therapeutic relationship is, it's an important relationship and it can be a strong relationship. So hopefully we get them in and we build upon that relationship and the relationship with the group members, and that will.
And can they be simultaneously in individual and group?
Yes.
You said you were contracted with From the Ashes. Will they be doing any of the groups?
They can.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean these groups?
Yes.
I haven't spoken with them about that.
Okay. I would maybe encourage that just so that there's that.
I know that Heather has her own groups and everything, so yeah, well, we can talk about that and what that would look like.
And is there a criteria this is kind of, I guess, to DJJ and to you, is there a criteria to say they are eligible for therapy or they need other services, or is it, how do we make that determination?
So from the DJJ side, every juvenile that comes in through an intake, if they're not already in services, they're referred for the comprehensive clinical assessment. And so from that would come the recommendations for whether it's outpatient, in-home, or the groups, or it may be no recommendations. But yeah, everybody does get that assessment on the front end.
And just for clarity, you recommend them to From the Ashes, and then if they have too many, then that's why.
We refer them, our primary agency for CCAs is youth villages.
From the Ashes is substance, is that right?
Yes.
So something else, yeah. Essentially, when they come through, you gotta get a CCA to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
You want them to be honest, because obviously if they're not, then it's not gonna be worthy. But yeah, that then opens the door to figuring out where they need to go with that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David. Next, Moja, Nete.
Moja.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aaron Griffin, but I'm filling in for Mr. Hayes today. Things is going quite well at Umoja. We're seeing about five to six students that's been referred to us. And it's supposed to last about 45 days, 8 weeks or so. It's been, I'm sort of on the ground, boots on the ground kind of guy. This is not my setting. So, and we just did a contract with Ashford City Schools, so we're gonna be going in, doing restorative circles with them. And so we're excited about that. We've been at Irwin's, you know, everything is going well. There's still some issues over there that we're dealing with Irwin, but and that's across the board. The best thing that I can give to this group, as far as being somebody who is on the ground, is that we have to get these families involved, because the kids are really grasping probably everything that everybody is offering in here. But that support system of the family it seems like it's always a struggle. You know, even with foster parents or someone coming from, you know, the DSS or whatever, these kids are experiencing neglect on a major level. And then sometimes we can be in a setting, in a meeting with them, and we can hear even the parents or the foster parents tell them, hey, look, we sending you to the juvenile center because you're not acting right in school. Why are you not acting right in school? Because you got in a fight, because you like a little boy. I mean, why are we taking this that far when it only takes somebody who love and care and really sit down and listen, and it don't even have to go that far, you know? So, and then to be able, like I'm a musician, to be able to have the students to come to Umoja or whatever and let them sing or do whatever and see some of the stuff that they write. You know, it's just recently we had someone from community health, because we work with them as well. I can't take it no more. That's something hard to hear from, you know, a teenager. I can't take it no more. So, and then to hear that whoever's bringing them to us saying that I'm basically giving up on you as well. So what do we do with that? You know, and we try to encourage, you know, hey, look, let's just trust the system, trust the process. There's plenty of resources. This is awesome. There's plenty of resources. And we have one, like what's happening with us in Unity is it's a referral system, you know, it's working. We have someone who can speak Spanish and they can translate, and if we can't help them, they can help them. They can get the help that they need. And as far as it's the beginning of it, right? It's the beginning, but it's working because we established a referral system and communication. So I'm looking forward to see like where we're going with this, because it's working, and I appreciate that. So I'll take any questions. I'm boots on the ground. Any questions?
Hey there,
Yes,
I've got
sir.
a question. This is Angie at Via.
Angie and Via.
Thank you. So, y'all serve a lot of kids, I know that. And you mentioned you're serving 5 to 6 students. Did you mean since we met last month, you've received 5 to 6 students from
Yes.
DJJ?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And you already have MOA in place with Buncombe. We know that because you're at Irwin, and you just got one in place with the city schools.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Reynolds and Community High as well.
Community High. Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just want to comment that also my agency is going to be what I met with your boss yesterday or the day before yesterday, and we're going to ramp up our collaboration as well and probably be referring between the two agencies as well. So I sometimes have kids that they'll complete community service and then they'll be like, I wanna do more community service. And I'm like, oh, sorry, like insurance, this and that, you're out, you're back to whatever you were doing before now. And I would be awesome if I could just say, well, here's the options. You could do music over here, or here's the options if you want. And then rather than like sending them over and just be like, okay, bye, I'll say like, I'll drive you over there and introduce you to everybody and we'll make a song together. And then I might be out for a little bit, but I'll come back once in a while. Like that kind of relationship, right?
Yeah, and it works too. I mean, that was one of the community health students that we did that with. And, just for me, like I said, boots on the ground, it's to have that gratitude kind of feeling that, especially when kids are coming like that they automatically feel the trust, the love. It's no shame. It's like no judgment at all. Yeah, you did this. Yeah, it's like this, but yeah, we can do this. But you have to buy into it. And not only you have to buy into it, your parents have to buy into it. Like we all have to buy into it. And this is what, like for me, this is what I've been preaching forever. It's like, we developed a great system here. Yeah, it has its flaws. Yeah, we can work some things out. But as long as we know what each other is doing and who can do what, we can direct this child to that situation, so they can get the help they need.
So I know that the last presentation you spoke about families as well, but you guys do work with families?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What are some of the activities that you all are doing in the restorative circles?
Well, the main thing is we always ask like, what happened? So the main thing is for them to be able to express themselves. So we have a lot of conversations around, just them personally. For me, it seemed like they want to feel like not that they're special, but someone is really listening to them. So we have, this is a prime example. At Irwin, once we started connecting with them, and they developed sort of this kind of team spirit, as far as well, a lot of people say the Mulgy kids, but it's not really that. It's just the kids who know each other, who experience some of the same things. Once they go into this is the other thing. Once they go into the school setting, it's being able to get the school to buy into what's going on, because they begin to look out for each other. Hey, you having a bad day? Hey, what's going on with you? Can we talk? So when this happens, then at first, well, it's getting a little better now, but at first it was like, hey, no, y'all can't communicate. Hey, go sit down. But they were already developing some kind of system where they can speak, they can speak to each other and express and calm each other down. Resiliency, just they really buy into what we trying to teach them. That's everybody in the room. It's just developing this full picture that everybody is going in the same direction, even before it get to you. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's working, but we just got to keep going. Did I answer your question?
In a sense, yes. I can see, like you're saying, that they begin to lean on each other. They begin to support one another.
Yes.
And like you're listening, you're giving them a voice, you're supporting, you're hearing from them. I'm just wondering, like, are there specific tools or specific techniques that you all are teaching them, like teaching them how to check on each other, teaching them how to look out for those signs of them being elevated or them being offline or things like that, and how to reset themselves and then go back into it?
So basically, the resiliency is what they're learning, and they know when they offline. They'll come and tell you, hey, I'm sorry, I was offline, so I'm back. So now I'm ready to talk. And then the others would tell each other, you offline, take a minute, breathe, and we can conversate. It's so different. I wish it was a model that fits all, and it's not. So for us, even with the schools, we have to be creative, because it's not a one shoe fit all kind of model. If it works with this child, it may not work with this child. It's something else. So it's to be able to be that listener and really try to get to the root of the issue, or what they really want to do, what really drives them. then you can shift them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Y'all provide transportation?
Yes, we do.
Is that within the organization? Do you have a vans or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think Kim from UNET wanted to speak.
Yeah, no, we
Sorry.
will address when it's our turn. It's our turn already all day. You are looking for excuse to sit down.
I stand. And that's what it's about. Absolutely.
So Norma Duran Brown, founder and executive director of UNET. I heard Jose and the rest of the team did a wonderful presentation of what we do last time, so I'm not going to revisit that. It's very important to understand that Umoja and UNET, both of their most visible heads, because there is a whole family behind Mr. Michael and myself, we are community resiliency model freaks. We believe that nobody can receive what you are offering if they are not regulated. So circles work, a lot of strategies work. If the person is at the point, it is within the resiliency zone to nurture themselves of what we are offering. If while I was the Latino outreach for Erwin District, counselors will rely on me because they couldn't get a student, let's say, she was in a school, I learned that that had been picked up by ICE and was going to be surely deported. Bilingual, went through 3 counselors. One counselor came and said, she doesn't stop crying, she doesn't want to go home. We don't know what to do. It took me using resources for resiliency or CREAM, however you want to call it, 15 minutes to help her just to be at the point that we could start processing what was happening. Other one was a student, a Black student, that I get the call, we fail, if he can regulate with you, he might get back to the classroom, if not, he's going to get ISS. So he comes to my office for first time, imagine, a white looking lady with a weird accent. So he, of course, dropped himself in the chair, very defiant, saying, they told me I need to come to talk with you. Well, I did everything we know how to do, you know, you said, do you want what you would like? You can choose today, water, soda, because it's a big thing to access the soda machines in the office. And I said, you will find this so weird, and we talked about it was cold enough, bubbly enough, and he was looking at me like, where is she going with all this? But we do everything we need to do, and 20 minutes after, I said, do you think you can go back to the classroom and finish your day? Oh yeah, absolutely. He goes back, I hear the knock on my door, he gets open, and he goes like, Miss, I don't know what is this, and he used the SH word. You did, but it works. And he laughed. So that's the reason when we are talking before with, you know, making sure the circle, whatever we do, we need that student regulated. We need that parent in the resilience zone. And we cannot really be effective if we don't address all the roots of it's an iceberg with roots, trust me. We see the tip of the iceberg, that is the behavior, but all the things under the iceberg. I refuse to use a tree because these are warm and thin. This is a cold iceberg, right? That a confrontational takes away us from our resiliency zone as adults, as teachers, but they are the roots of that. There are so many, and they layer up that if we don't address that, and if we don't address that with the family, with the teacher, right, with the principal sometimes, we just cannot really be as effective as we could. Or when we do the referrals to more intense approaches and treatments, they already know all these tools. So that is where we come and we tailor things. And of course, we want to tailor a thing for each student, for each family, and also collect the data. So it shows, and Manos has an amazing record of students not improving behavioral, reducing ISS, no OSS at all. And that is easy to access because parents sign a permission to speak with counselors and with teachers about all that. The other upper hand we have is that in minorities, parents that are still involved and trying, I don't know what to do, help me, we still having, and correct me, please, if I am wrong, and same from you all, but I can talk for the Latino community. We have a different approach in terms of independence and autonomy. You can be 20, hair everywhere, you know, or cures everywhere. If you live in my home, my rules. And, you know, we hold that level of authority that can be sometimes things that we address in our meetings, but sometimes it's very helpful. Because when parents have those tools to express their level of caring and love, but also with strategies that they use in a positive manner, that level also of respect and authority, is we have half of the battle won right there. Also the fact that we are within the schools, in Erwin Middle, for example, give us also a different connection with the school. I know sometimes administrators must roll their eyes when we walk in there, but they know what we are doing is working. We have 2 weeks ago, a girl that went from good behavior to horrible behavior. Nobody knew why, a newcomer. A teacher came and said, I can't believe I hadn't given ISS to a newcomer in the 5 years I'm teaching here, but I am to the point that I will do it. It was a matter to sit. She was very defiant in our group too. And she was like, I'm not coming anymore to Manos. And da-da-da-da-da. And for a moment, she got me. And we were like, well, I cannot force you. Let's call your mom. I don't have my phone. Will you believe a teenager didn't get your phone to school? Mm-hmm. I said, okay, let's go to the office. But when I was going to walk in the office, I remember my mantra. Children that are in desperate need of love and caring will choose the most unloving ways to demand it. And I closed the door and I told her, and I still having goosebumps, I said, let's sit and talk. And I asked her to put, you know, again, resiliency, grounding. I said, with a hand in your heart, look in my eyes and tell me everything is fine, because she keeps saying everything is fine. And with a hand on her heart, a warm hand on her heart, she looked at me and she started crying. She missed grandma, Well, it took us 10 minutes to unpack all the story. It took one WhatsApp phone call from the school. I met grandma in Mexico through the phone. Next week, a report, thank you, she's back to she used to be. That's it. Sometimes it's much more difficult, we know that, and we have to go through the other steps. But I think that practicing, we already are doing Manos, currently has 28 students. We have the referral, that's what we were talking, aunt called me, that mom is going to call me because they are going through the whole process of with this student. So I call Umoja, Anthony, their Latino advocate, which happened to be a former Manos student. So full circle for me, sorry, I had to brag about it. They do what they know with the Latino lens of Anthony, and now gets back to UNETE to do the rest of the unpacking with the school system, what we can do and what we can do with the family. So what obviously need is have more people trained and keep respecting each other and also modeling. We have a district where minorities are confronted and identified with each neighborhood, even if they don't live in those neighborhoods. By ethnicity, they identify and they are causing troubles in the school. But when they see the adults working together, and I live this in Haywood County, Pigeon Community Center in Haywood County, that is the heart of the Black community, is also the heart of the Latinx community. It can be done. It was done in Haywood County. We can do it in both. I don't have any doubt.
No doubt at all.
No. Questions?
Between the two of y'all's organizations, how many students have you been serving since January? Just like total?
Yes, right now we have 72 between middle schoolers and high schoolers. Yes. And you have 6.
Yes, it's around 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it will be 130 plus. I think.
Thank you so much.
No more questions? I talk too much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We'll go on to Aspire. I do want to state, we are at 9:30. We still obviously will need to deliberate. There will be some mathematics because it's a number. We've got several different programs. So if we are to dissect that, we'll have to do some adding and subtraction to get where we need to get. So we'll need to do that and also do some updates. So Aspire, Pivot, obviously we know what y'all do. And so I'll start with Aspire, kind of tailor it towards what this new allocation of money could do for you and your program. I think we've all got the information, but Robin or Kim, just let us know what sort of this allocation of new money could do for you and Aspire.
Okay, so Robin and I will both be speaking about this proposal. So this is for a new component. I submitted it as a separate program agreement just for clarity, so we could clearly see the budget that was related to this program. But if it were approved for funding, we would want to include it as another component to our larger program. So with Aspire ACEs, we know that there are many students that are court involved in particular that struggle with school, whether that's academic or behavioral. And really those two things are linked because a lot of times what we see is, a kid might act out in school, they get a suspension, then they fall behind in school and they may never catch up. And we know that kids that fail a class or kids that have suspensions, particularly out of school suspensions, are much less likely to complete high school. And that just really shifts the trajectory for our students, and we're trying to make an impact about that. So with this program, we're trying to improve not only their just general school performance, but also if they have a school suspension, helping to make sure that they don't fall behind on their work, working with them more intensively during the suspension time to keep them caught up with what they're missing with their peers. And then also addressing the emotional and behavioral skills that are necessary to be successful at school, helping them deal with frustration, helping them deal with anger, giving them some coping skills in addition to just the academic and enhancement aspect of it. We would deliver this program on a one-on-one and individuals, like small group type of setting. And the great thing about this is that it would be really flexible. So we could provide tutoring at the school. We could provide tutoring in the community at a location that's close to their home. And we have a set space already at UNCA has been our hub of where we operate most of our programs. So we also have classroom space that is available there. If the kids were coming to UNCA, then we would provide transportation as well.
One of the things that I wanted to add was, I think that schools in almost every county are concerned about the number of students who are being suspended or expelled, as Kim said, due to behavioral issues or falling behind. And I think most of the research tends to indicate that these suspensions, whether in school or out of school, are not likely to change the inappropriate behavior that got this student there in the first place. That's number one. And number two, they don't really deter other students from mimicking whatever that behavior is. So, we have found that a child on suspension, it takes them a lot longer to get caught up. They get very frustrated. So what we are able to do is step in. Our staff will be in touch with teachers, social workers, to make sure that we know what their case curriculum is, keep them up to date on what their assignments are, and, hopefully have them not drop out or have any other kind of negative consequences.
Yeah, we have been delivering, those of you that have been in the council for a long time know that we ran day treatment, and Aspire had a private license school for over 13 years. And so we really know what it takes for the kids that had not been successful in other settings for them to be supported and help them to be successful. And we do that by really, approaching it with the different learning styles, making the curriculum and the instruction relatable to them, and also utilizing different techniques to help them to comprehend and retain information. And so we are currently doing some tutoring in some other counties, and we've seen such huge improvements, and some of the court counselors in those counties have been just, really excited. We've received letters from parents just saying, thank you so much for the support that you have provided my child, and what a big difference it's made with them academically, and just how they're feeling about going to school every day, feeling like they can actually be successful.
I will tell you, in one of those counties, I actually had one of the parents contact me. Their youth was suspended for behavioral issues. And beforehand, they had a D average, a strong D. And now they are up to a B+. It's not an A, but it's a huge, huge difference. And so we were able to make that happen, make sure, that youth could go back to class and not only be where the others are, but in some instances, even ahead of that. So our target would be children ages 10 through 17. And the way it would work is they'll receive approximately 40 hours of tutoring over a 20-week period. So as Kim said, it is flexible. We could do it either in the school or, at a place that is convenient for them in their location. And if that was the case, we would provide transportation as well.
I think one of the good things is, if you have a kid that's suspended, you don't want to have just like a suspension program and they come to that program and then that's it. One of the keys to success here is that after they're with us for a suspension period of time, we continue to work with them for several weeks after that. And that helps to monitor and support and reward progress along the way. So we use, behavioral contingency and some, reward system to reward academic improvement and things like that as well. We've worked with teachers to bolster kids' GPA by doing extra credit projects and things like that. So we really just try to work within the system that they are in and guide them to ultimate success.
And lastly, I think one of the positives I've heard from the schools is going through this, if they are in fact suspended, they don't have to be counted as absent. And that was a big thing for them.
Does anybody have questions for us?
Questions?
I just have one question. Would you still do this program if you don't receive the money or the total amount that you're asking for?
So it's possible that we could still provide the services, for lesser number of students for lesser money. But if we did not receive any funds, we would not be able to provide the service in Buncombe County. But the fact that we are offering the service in some other areas allows us to, have a little bit of, flexibility if you wanted to tweak the numbers to be served.
Thank you.
I have two quick questions. How many students are you currently serving with the analogous programs? And then what are you using for the tutoring and remediation? Is it actual staff that's providing the tutoring, or are you using like an ed tech solution? Or
it is a live instruction, from our experience, working with this particular population. They seem to respond really well to, being able to have that interchange between the live tutor and themselves and working on things on a really individualized basis. We're currently serving, 21 students in tutoring in some other locations. Is that what you were asking, or were you asking about our other Buncombe programs? I wasn't sure what you were asking.
The tutoring specifically.
Yeah, 21 students currently.
How many locations is that?
That is 3 locations.
And of those students you're serving, what percentage would be BIPOC?
What percentage would be what? I'm sorry.
BIPOC, Black, Indigenous.
I don't know that right off.
I actually do. I figured that would be a question. So out of the 21, I will tell you right now, 11 are Black, 2 are Asian, and the rest are white female.
Thanks, Robin.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Robin and Kim, thank you. I think it's a big deal. Obviously, we see suspensions all the time. We need tutoring because suspensions, the kids aren't doing anything outside. So I'm glad that you're at least offering those services and have put in the request to be able to do that. It looks like Brandon has raised his hand. That's not a high five. That's Brandon, you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I heard it right. So they are not operating in Buncombe County at the moment?
Not for ACEs, not for the tutoring, correct?
Okay, thank you.
And I want to know how you knew that was not just a high five.
It was more of a question. Thank you, Robin. All right, pivot. Matt, I know you're here. Obviously, we kind of went over what the application is, what that technical piece is. I think we know what Pivot is, but tell us kind of what this new allocation, what this would bring to Pivot Point, what it could provide.
Sure. So, yeah, we've been working with divergent programming since fiscal year 2020. And I think we have a well-established proof of concept for experiential coaching. We do therapeutic adventure work, after school programming. Our DJJ work is on Saturdays. It's 10 weeks, about 6 hours from pickup to drop off. And about halfway through our first year working with DJJ, I went back to members of the allocation committee and members of DJJ and asked, why couldn't we do this further upstream as a prevention program? It took me about 2 years to figure out who to talk to, because I just don't know these things. I figured out who to talk to in about 2 years. It took another month to get the MOU with Buncombe County School Student Services Leadership. It took AC Reynolds High School approximately 4 hours to give us 14 kids for a prevention-based substance use counseling group after-school prevention program. A number of those students stepped back. Some had done Outward Bound and felt that other students would more benefit from the offering. So our first cohort, which started February 27th, and we've already successfully completed, had 9 students. Our second cohort started Wednesday, it's full, has 10 students, 2 on the waiting list. I believe the numbers are approximately 20%. Approximately 80% right now are identified as Caucasian. We have 3 Asian Americans, 3, I don't know the math, 3 Latinx, and 1 identified American Indian, self-identified. Our prevention program is all gender inclusive. Our diversion programming with you all is gender exclusive, gender identified at birth. Those who are non-binary, we simply just check in with them about where they would feel safest and most seen, and we can adjust that depending on how that shifts in the group dynamic. Our prevention program is all gender inclusive. So we're looking at cohort 1 was 2 female identified at birth and 7 males. This one is more evenly distributed, 5 females, 4 males, and 1 non-binary. I will say cohort 2, a good number of those, I believe it might be 50% of those students are in the immediate friend circle of the most recent unfortunate loss of life in the Nesbitt community. And while we are not exclusively grief counseling, we're helping them kind of navigate those emotions and impulsivity that often goes along with that type of a processing situation. This is definitely a substance use prevention-based counseling offering. It also is interpersonal skill building. It also is structured day. It also is mentoring. Our team and our direct care service providers work in a 2-to-10 ratio, so 2 guides for 10 students at a time. Most of them have a master's in social work or outdoor leadership, and independent of that, our team our organization team and leadership team, myself included, we total about 76 years of clinical experience. So we're a lot more than just informed by CBT, DBT, and the ACT matrix, change behavior, acceptance, and commitment therapy models. We also feel that one of the reasons this is as effective as it is because we are not licensed clinicians. When we do our intake interviews, often when we even say the word therapeutic, families and the students themselves wall up almost immediately. This is peer delivered. This is rapport building. It's anchored in rapport building, just like was mentioned with Buncombe County Youth Clinical Counseling. It's 10 weeks. After school programming, AC Reynolds leadership, Ben Alexander has given us permission for cohort 1 and 2 to come into the school 30 minutes early and to help kind of circumnavigate the bus system over at AC Reynolds. Joe Ainsworth has been the lead mental health counselor over at AC Reynolds to help facilitate getting these kids on board and their families and the paperwork. We provide door-to-door transportation. I just had a successful meeting with Reynolds Middle School to provide this for 8th graders beginning of next academic year. I met with Kathy over at Community High School. And I mean, everybody's all in. So that's kind of what we're here. We just want to go upstream. No offense to GJJ court counselors, but we want to start working with these kids before they even know who you are.
That's why we're here, right? I mean, we don't want to attach it afterwards and try to correct it, although it's good. We want to address those issues up front. Samantha, I appreciate that. Any questions?
Just one statement for, just like what he said, before it gets to the court system. I found that most of us, with the buy-in of the parent, can sort of get ahead in the school system if we're invited to the IAP. It works. Some of the things that we're teaching, it can help the teachers in the school system within you know, the IEP. So that's another window that we can really get involved with. And I just want to say that. Thank you.
Any plans to get into the actual city schools?
From us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna do this to each other. Yeah, I have a couple of introductions and warm handoffs for who I need to speak to at Asheville City Schools. I had talked to Dr. Robinson in the past about it. We just were fortunate with things lining up for AC Reynolds to be the spot for the pilot. But I mean, we already have proof of concept with it. Yeah. We provide, AC Reynolds is like 15 minutes from the 250 acres where Works Project is, so that's where we go. We have a deal with them. I've known Jason McDougal for quite some time, so that's where we're doing the majority of this work. It goes up to like 3.5 hours, because it's an after school program. We're a little limited, but only by daylight. But yeah, AC Reynolds, Asheville City, Buncombe County, Community High. I wanna combine all the pods. I think we've had some insight from Kathy that a number of the Community High students would otherwise be at AC Reynolds, so she thought maybe we should get a couple of cohorts in before we start blending those groups together, but yeah. And these are right now school resource office and the mental health counselor referrals using the same generic, I think generic is the right word, referral from DJJ. We have the support, as I said, of the mental health counselors, leadership. AC Reynolds Parent Teacher Association is all about it. Like, we're good.
So you're doing this already without the funds, and if you weren't able to receive the full funds, would you still continue with the program?
You said the referral is coming from the SROs and the school counselors.
Primarily the school counselors themselves, but we have, as we have with DJJ as well in the diversion programming, school resource officers are always welcome and encouraged to do direct referrals. We don't need to go through DJJ, we just need to prioritize the students for diversion that come through. But yes, sorry, that was a long answer.
No, that was
And that's, of course, best to push, right? SROs aren't used to that role. More enforcement, so we're trying to make sure that's open for them. And they just gotta get used to doing that and having that as a resource.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We often through the diversion work had gotten phone calls through the families and friends of families of like the last cohort completers asking about the program. We can't take referrals directly from the families, but we usually have done a lot of sort of warm handoffs to their school SROs so that they can navigate it that way. For this program that I clicked the wrong thing for is it was 3 or 4, I think it was 4 students from cohort 1 asked if they could come in cohort 2, and we had to see what the interest was, and as I said, we were full in, I think it took less than a day to get 10 kids, and we have 2 on the waiting list already. So the parents like it, faculty like it, mental health counselors like it, the kids love it. Because we're doing all the same CBT, DBT, ACT matrix, all of that behavior change, self-regulation skills, community resilience model. But we're not sitting around in a circle drawing it on a dry erase board. We're doing it. You know, take your shoes off, walk the trail, get on this paddle board, hang out on the lake. It's a little more, it's just different. It's not better, it's just different.
No, I think it's a great, sounds awesome. I think all the programs, I think for me, one of my concerns is being through the different lanes that I serve in, a lot of the issues that I have seen are that these programs are great and that they're not always representative of BIPOC, Black and brown individuals. And so I guess that's why I keep asking who's doing the referral. And so I think sometimes what I have seen is that there are issues where 2 people do the same thing. The Black student gets maybe a negative consequence and the white student gets referred to your program. And so I'm trying to figure out, and not that that's a problem with your program, it's where the referral is happening. And so who is getting referred to your program versus suspended? And so how can we in this council work to make sure, whether that's training on the counselor side, whether that's training on the SRO side, to say, hey, when you have these students in your office, let's refer both to the outdoor training. Like we said, they have the autonomy to say no, but they can't say they didn't know. So that's where my question has been going kind of throughout the day, is just trying to make sure that the programs that are set up that you all have sound really good, so maybe it's on the other side, on the front end of the who's referring, that maybe we need to get in there and say, hey, what are you looking at? What is the criteria that you decide to refer this person but not that person? So that's all, so.
Yeah, and I mean, just from the two presentations that we started with, like, I mean, I didn't bring enough business cards, but like I didn't know that we could refer a month. Like, I always call when it's outside of our window, and like when we're out of our lane, I call anyone in the community for additional help. But like, I would love to have a cohort with everything that was just presented. Like, any access point that is available, I will knock on those doors until people yell at me to get out of the building. That might not have been the best thing to say it out.
Just, I will be very brief. And I think what is clear for me is that everybody on this table, we want the best for our youth and our families. So I think the next step will be how we get together in round table, funding aside, and who gets the funding, and think what's the next step to create a collaborative where we all want the same thing, and maybe we can create something that we, as one, with all the levels of expertise, we reach for one of these huge philanthropics, whatever, and we all get what we need because we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's make it happen.
Yeah, I wanna refer to you when someone completes their community service, be like, all right, these are your options now that you finish your community service. You can go over here, make music, you can go over here, you go hiking.
We can integrate community service as well, and doing like trail projects and things on that property, which is also a nonprofit.
All right, well, let's link.
Although we're off on timing, it sounds like this is great networking for our program. So I feel like there's a win, even though I'm totally off on the agenda. It sounds like there's still a lot of positive that's going on. Like our own friend, we did address that. I addressed that with Matt before, because I was like, BIPOC kids up in here, and talked about DJ. A lot of it is these kids may not express that interest, and so you usually want to guide them where they want, but you also got to put them in places that are uncomfortable, and you have to test it out. And so it's just about finding those ways. But we hear that. I spoke with Matt about that because I'd like to see that more as well. So that is a goal that we'll make sure those referrals come out, even with outside of their likeness of what they want to do, and kind of get them in areas where they can learn and be uncomfortable so they can grow from it.
That's where everything that we do happens. We don't intentionally dysregulate these kids, but they're uncomfortable, and that's by design. And I think the majority of the resistance is before they get in the van. The second we hit the trail, even someone who wants nothing to do with hiking and has like terrible experiences hiking, the second we get them out there.
I just, I'm sorry, I have to leave for court, but I probably would need to abstain anyway, so I want to make that note to the leadership and the minute taker. If you get that part, good luck with that, George. I am so excited and so grateful for these supports and the kind of conversation we're having, and I love the idea of maybe you end up doing a mini retreat room, money's off the table for a second, and just get down to how can we help get this going better with collaborative efforts. So I'm gonna make a lot of people uncomfortable. Great to see everyone. Thank you.
Have fun doing that.
It's never fun and never my God.
The chair of that you.
Hey, George.
I didn't hear that.
Hey, George.
Yes.
Sorry, so it's 10 o'clock. And I know so can I just speak a little bit? Because I have to leave shortly too, like everyone else, I'm sure. I just like to make a few comments if that's okay.
Yes, and whoever, I guess, has to leave, I guess just let us know. Obviously, my apologies for getting to the point where we are a little bit behind, but yes, Angie, go ahead, since you are almost and got places to go, kind of give your thoughts, and if you need to get your vote.
Yeah, hey, so listen, these programs, it's so exciting to sit here and listen to this. And so it'd be nice if we had these programs available in all of our counties for all of our kids. But here we are. And again, all these programs are great and really do target the youth that we serve and want to serve. my thoughts are with what we have been discussing the past year on the planning committee, and what folks do know that, we really are trying to work towards with the data that we have now. And we haven't had a chance to go through the weeds, but we know enough with the data from the YASI and from the state rep, that we really want to look at services that will serve BIPOC kids, kids of color, Latino kids, Black kids, and the kids that are being referred more than other kids in the school system for services. And having programs that have people that look like them and understand their culture and where they're coming from. Serving the families as well. We all know, if we've been in this long enough, just sometimes programs for kids are great. And if you can also, in a way, sometimes serve their families in connection, that's even better. And so I feel that since we have committed to the clinical services so far and to Umoja, my suggestion is that, because Umoja, I've never heard of a program who we just decided to fund 30 days ago and they're already serving 5 to 6 kids. That's amazing. And we have the clinical program that's been trying to get off its feet. And we do have youth villages. I just want to continue to say that does provide CCAs. And one of the issues a few years ago was they didn't have enough staff to provide the CCAs for DJJ, but it's part of the child continuum. And, the CCA slots that are provided for DJJ, don't get filled all the time now, right? Because we have enough staff at youth villages to fill that need. So clinical assessments are getting done. But we don't want to just cut the feet out from under this program. But I do also would like to get Umoja a chance, and for them to already have an MOA in place with both the city and the county, have the history in working in the schools. That's a big jump. And I don't know if I'm making a motion, George, and I'm not really good with numbers, and I was crunching numbers trying to listen to everyone. And so we can talk a little bit about this. Judge Smith, I know, had to abstain. She's gone. Angel's good with numbers, so you can help me out here. But thinking about splitting the 66,843 between Umoja and clinical. So basically, clinical's requesting 37,896. So initially giving them half of that ask. Umoja's asking 50, initially giving them half of that, which is 25. And then that leaves how much left?
You're right there. I mean, if it's
And
right
then
around.
splitting the remaining what's left again between Umoja and clinical. Again, let's get these programs off the ground. This is what we're wanting. This is what we're looking at on the planning committee. So I'm open for discussion. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. I believe it's $66,893, not 43, but I'm not a stickler for those calculations. I would like to just ask one brief question. I think it's already been mentioned to Pivot and Inspire and for all of the other programs, right? As you see this allotment, if you don't get the amount that you requested, is it something that you can scale back, or is it something that you just can't do? That would kind of let us know if it's even a possibility. If that's something, are y'all able to pivot around? No pun intended, Matt, as to, right, is that something that y'all can adjust to the numbers, or is that something that's really funding this program and to Aspire as well, and you can't do it unless you get the full allotment?
I can speak for our youth clinical program. That full funding strictly covers the salary and benefits for the counselor, and it's like $560 for a cell phone.
Okay.
The county currently contributes, is able to contribute 38% match. They are unable to do anything greater than that. So if we were not funded at the full amount, it would affect hours of the therapist, which could potentially affect retention.
Okay.
Yes. Angie, thank you for I appreciate a lot of what you're saying. I completely agree on the Umoja front. I look at, from my perspective, I look at this a lot through the lens of demand. And I mean, just hearing some of the numbers that are out there between Umoja and even hearing the pivot point and where Aspire is doing this in other places, my concern with the Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program is just understanding the demand of this. When asked, she had mentioned serving 16 students, and in looking at the sheet here, I'm seeing numbers of 3 or 1, and for sure, I don't know how all that lands. But I think there's a distinction between like helping a program get off the ground versus like what is the stated demand and desire from the community and from the connections that already exist with the schools and the district. So practically speaking, what I would just offer there is everything you said on Umoja tracks with me, and I see some great demand there already. And I would love to learn more about what the group thinks about Pivot Point and then the work that's happening in ACES with other places, specifically here.
And real quick, Umoja, are y'all okay if it gets reduced, or is this something, I mean, obviously you're still in the schools, is that something that you can kind of adjust to, or is it attached to a salary and attached to, and would have to reduce significantly the services you provide?
We're doing the work already with these students and their families. It really reduces the amount of impact we have on training additional people, like really building out the system the way it needs to be built out. We're going to continue to do the work. The data, the number of students we're able to actually work with within the NCLI system, and it just allows us to do more and to train more people to do the work.
I would just add, I don't know if this is possible, maybe it's more of an understanding than contractual, but even just seeing some of the conversations here from the recommendations to go to Pivot Point, it sounds like there could be a way. I know it's a great point that you brought up, like who's even being referred to Pivot Point. Is there a way to say like, you recommend that this money goes towards the conversation so that students from Umoja are doing Pivot Point or from the other referrals?
Yeah, a couple of things. I totally agree, and I think for us to say that we're, that maybe Pivot Point is the way to fund them because of the population, I think we have to be better about who's referring and how are they being referred and why aren't people of color being referred? And because if they have a demand like they do, then I think that's something we need to consider supporting. There is no doubt that to me that Umoja is running from the front here. They are providing services to 130 kids already. What they're doing with families is very important. I know a lot of that conversation has come up. How are we supporting the kids with the families? And they're doing that work too. We had questions before about the referral process for the Buncombe County County Youth Justice Clinical Program, about the referrals and how those groups are going to start and how they go there. So I'm not clear on the number that they can serve. I am very clear that it seems to be very clear that Umoja has the numbers, will continue to get the numbers, and in 1 month getting 6 referrals from DJJ is phenomenal to me, and I love that. The ACE program looks to be great, but we just took money away from a program like that because of the possibility, and I know that there's a different processes there, but I wasn't able to glean how they were going to get those referrals and get those kids, and so I'm not sure that's the way we need to go. I know we like to split up money, but it is clear to me that the full funding for giving Umoja the full funding, they will serve those children immediately.
Kim, you have a hand up?
I do. So, I mean, one of the things I'll say is historically, when we were providing that service for court-involved kids in particular that had been suspended from school, we got those referrals very consistently from court counselors. With this program, when you're talking about disproportionate representation, definitely in the school systems, more so, minority groups are being overly represented when it comes to suspensions. And so if you really want to target making sure that those kids are getting the support and assistance that they need in order to be successful so that they can pass school, so that they don't have additional barriers to being successful at school, then ACES is the way to go. You all ask, what is the possibility of scaling back? And I would say, our point where we could not operate would be basically to move it to about half and serve half the kids. That would be our bottom, that would be our bottom point for that program.
Thank you, Kevin.
I do want to speak on where I feel like pivot point is. I mean, Black community doesn't just hike already. So being referred to a program you may not participate in is hard. I really like the substance abuse conversation because that's impacting across the demographics everywhere. I mean, it is a huge problem. And I'm glad to see that you all are already moving and creating these relationships with the school district and doing what you have to do to make sure it gets done. That's commendable. I also really support Umoja and Unete coming up, new program, being able to be fully funded and hearing how many kids they already serve, and that majority is the population that a lot of programs have struggled to get is impressive to me. And I've been supportive of Umoja, just hearing about it in the community, and I'm thrilled that the Black and Brown community are coming together. So I just wanted to say that.
I mean, I think it's great, and I don't want to say this as like devil's advocate or anything, but Umoja's in Irwin, right? And if you look at the districts and stuff, so I don't want to, I mean, I love that because that district captures a lot of BIPOC. I mean, it is what it is. They're already in there, and so I wouldn't want Pivot to almost be in there as well. Like they've got that area. You want them to grow. Pivot's doing the exact same thing in Reynolds. It's just Reynolds isn't diverse as much, right? They're in school. Every kind of district kind of needs it, and we're very fortunate that it's getting covered in everywhere. I don't want programs to be punished because our districts are situated with the way that they are. We just want, as a council, make sure that everyone is getting the services they need, and we're addressing, based on the data that Angie had said, that BIPOC nature. We also got to break that mold, though, right, with some of those individuals. And it sounds like from Matt, as he had talked about before, a link into Asheville City will turn that program into BIPOC quickly, right? I mean, once you get out of Reynolds in that area, you'll get into an area where you're probably a little bit more diverse. And so those things kind of help, especially with the networking as well. I can only imagine how these numbers are going to transcend in the next year with inter-networking from those as it comes about. Matt, I know you had raised your hand, and
I just was speaking to like this request was to bring this to community high school at TC Robertson and not like I don't know that we're good and fully funded at AC Reynolds by any stretch of the imagination, but the purpose of this was to address the parity.
Yeah, and community high school TC, so it's different areas outside of Reynolds that may capture that. All right, we've gotten, I think Angie had kind of put up a proposal as to the sort of funds.
I've sketched that out a tiny bit. Angie, if I heard you right, you're basically suggesting 75% of each of the asks. I'm not sure if that, or if you were suggesting splitting the 66,893, but if it was 75% of each of the asks, then that would be these numbers here from the two programs you were mentioning, the clinical program and Unite, which would leave $971 left on the table. And she suggested splitting that between the two.
Yeah, that would just go between each of them. That's what I was saying.
Were you suggesting splitting 66 or splitting the asks? I'm sorry.
Well, splitting the entire RFP amount that's available in between the two programs.
Okay.
But then, giving, like you said, half of the 50, half of the 37,896, and then what's left of that, then splitting the rest of that in between.
Okay.
But we hear from Buncombe County that they need the full
For any of the full ask for that. I'm also worried just, through this whole experience on the board, really understanding the numbers served and how that is really impactful. The youth justice clinical program is not serving anywhere near where they should be. At no fault of their own, this is brand new, but it's not close enough where I feel comfortable stating that they need additional funds until they get to a place where they are reaching the numbers where they're at. I mean, the presentations always change up my thinking because that's not how I was thinking before. But when it comes down to the serving of the kids and where we're at and putting money where kids are being served already, I think that should be where we place funds.
I agree with you.
And Angel, I can agree and go with that as well. I just want you to hear me. I'm not.
I hear you, friend.
Okay, all right. I'm going on mute. You and I got it. Thank you.
It's friend for now. All right, so I
Angie,
mean,
Angel, we're the
I
same.
think Andy had also talked about, obviously, his thoughts with Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical as well. We've got Pivot that's also kind of doing those same sort of substance abuse more in the schools as well. I think we've heard from Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical that obviously this request is tied to salaries, that this is a position. So I think there's a certain limit that they could go to, and if it's not that, then we would have to wait, based on what they've stated, is they'd have to probably wait until the next RFP that could come out when we'd allocate funds for that following year. So as we start to think about rounding these numbers and getting them together, if there is thought, and I haven't heard any opposition from Umoja getting kind of the bulk based upon they've got the numbers, that would then eliminate almost Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical off gate. And so I don't want to make any motions. I just want y'all to kind of think about that as that portion. Pivot, obviously, as well. I know Aspire talked about as well. They've given a limit. So Pivot, are y'all able to, I know this goes into community high school, how would this affect if you didn't get the full amount? Obviously, you maybe could scale back or not get into TC at this time or community high. Is that what would happen?
I mean, it would be, the answer is contingent on what the scale back is, but yeah, I mean, it's, the good news is, I think in the context of this conversation, like our rates kind of happen the second the van turns on, right? Like, so it's not necessarily broken down as a per person, a per student. So if we were halved, it just means I gotta talk to them. We're gonna run a cohort, we're gonna take 10 kids out, we're gonna do what we do. I mean, heck, I give them. I don't know I never know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
And I only say that because some programs that they do, that's the request. They request a full for that, and that's what they need. And so I'd like to just kind of know that on the front end, because then that helps us deliberate that that's.
So we take our year and we're gonna do 250 or 260, 100% subsidized outings this year. Of those, we're gonna allocate this many for the prevention program, this many for the diversion program. So it just means I gotta play with those numbers. We're not dead in the water if we don't get the full amount.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, I'm working some numbers and ways of what I'm hearing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would offer a proposal or whatever is that.
Can you speak up?
Yes, if we do 68% of the ask for Umoja and Unite and 68% of the ask for Pivot Point, what I'm hearing from both places is that funding can immediately be put to use. That would get us to 65,697, so very close to the 66,893. Based on the conversation between like not contingent upon staffing, with the understanding of like an ability to grow with the population we want to serve, and it can immediately be put to use. Recognize it's not the full amount asked for, but from what I'm hearing, the conversations of how to put it to most effective use.
What's the dollar amount that you got for that, for each group?
Yep. 37,500 for Umoja and Unite. and $33,460.50 for Pivot Point. We're short about $1,000 from the total, but I can divide that. I'll take it. I just did a percent. I did 68% of both tasks.
And what are we giving Pivot Point right now?
Right now, Pivot Point is allocated 84,858 for next year.
Just as information, who else is anyone else doing tutoring after school stuff?
No, I think that's what Buncombe Structure Day was, and I was gonna kind of state that, so I'm glad you kind of brought that up. I think it's a huge component, obviously, if it attaches with the absences as well. We know that this is gonna trickle down. This is a need for sure. Yeah, Hannah.
I will just raise that there was a lot of discussion during allocations about the programs that the school systems have developed.
That is correct. There is.
Buncombe County currently has one, and with the addition to the alternative program in a Asheville City Schools building, they are working on that for next year as well.
Yes, that is part of the reason why Buncombe Structure, I think we were saying that they had some stuff to do, but also things are changing. The schools are taking that and owning that piece as well. And so it'll be interesting, obviously, to see how Kim and them are doing it in other counties, and if it's continuing to be an issue and not being addressed by our community within, then maybe that's something we pick back up. But it's important. So we got from Andy,
How much did we give Umoja,
recently?
recently?
Yeah. So the Umoja's total ask is, so in the first allocations process, Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program and Umoja were both partially funded for their full request. So Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program is, their current total request to meet the proposal that they have is 87,000, is that 50,000 plus the 37,896 more,
So they'd
so
be
a
at
total of 87,000. And then Umoja's request, they were initially allocated 23,357, and they are requesting 50,000 to get to their initial proposal, which was 72.
Yeah. See, I feel like granting Umoja their full request, I mean, they are already serving 10 times the amount of kids that we are serving with less money, and the ability to have more trained adults to help with their large numbers, to me, makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's.
And I would add to that, the peer component that they shared with us in the previous presentation felt really important, and that doesn't cost, that also is it can expand that, would enable them to expand.
Yeah.
So can we, wanna make a motion?
There you go.
Well, so, quick question, because my motion would be Umoja and then the remaining to Pivot Point, but don't we have to make a motion to have Pivot Point
do.
added back?
The technical aspect of, because again,
They
yes.
sent it in
So that needs to
different
happen
form.
first.
Yeah, so we are going to consider Pivot Point in allocating their money. Again, their project type, their program type wasn't part of RFP. Obviously,
They had
listening to them,
resubmit.
it covers mentoring, substance abuse, so it would, so we'd have to make a motion to allow that technical piece to
I
come.
make a motion to add Pivot.
Second. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will just say one thing. I think if, in my mind, the work that the numbers we're seeing with Umoja, I wish they would have asked for $66,893. Because that's the work they're doing. I mean, that's what we're seeing. Just my thoughts.
I make a motion to.
Well, I guess we need to vote on this.
Oh, I'm sorry. We gotta vote on this one.
We do, we've got a motion and a second already for Pivot Point. If there's any oppositions, please state here in the room, also online. Are there any oppositions in here? Or I don't see any here. Anyone online? Doesn't look like any oppositions for Pivot Point to be included in this allocation at this point. So that is passed. So Pivot Point will be included in this allocations deliberations. And so is there a motion for the allocation of $66,893.50?
Just one moment. Lorraine, were you raising your hand to speak?
Yeah, I can do it after the motion, but I did just want to clarify that you all did give Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program 50,000, so they'll have to, you know what I mean? So just as a reminder, you all had given them some, and so they'll have to make that decision about whether or not they'll be able to still offer that program or return those funds for next year.
Thank you, Lorraine.
But that's separate from this motion. So sorry about the timing. I probably should have waited.
I make a motion to grant 50,000 to Umoja and the remaining funds to Pivot Point.
Second.
Second.
We get a second from Brandon. It says make second. All in favor, say aye if you're in here.
Aye.
Any opposed, or if you're online, say aye if you're online and you agree.
Aye. This is Brandon. Aye.
Aye.
Natasha, aye.
CC, aye.
Any opposed online? Say nay. All right, looks like that has passed unanimously. I think at this point, just a note, JCPC memberships, start thinking about your memberships here as they start to get to times where it'd be time to continue and extend. I want to apologize for running over. I don't want that to help in your determination of not wanting to be a part of this committee. I will do better. We do have upcoming annual certifications as well as vehicle reallocations and stuff like that we'll address. Lorraine, is there any further update that we need to address at this point?
One question that I had, and forgive me, I probably missed it with the motion. Was there also the motion included with that Pivot Point change their program type, correct?
Yes, Lorraine, we got a motion and we got a second to approve Pivot Point to amend their application to fit with the program types on the RFP.
Thank you.
Lorraine, I think the only other thing that needed motions are the approvals for the budget revisions. Is that something that can be done over email, or what's the timing of that needing to happen?
The two budget revisions, if you all had another minute, do you want me, if the programs would let me, I could just let you all know what the budget revisions are?
Lorraine, we may,
or do you want to have a
quorum at this point? I just want to tell you beforehand.
Yeah.
It's my fault, Lorraine. Just go ahead and just put it on me.
I can, and if it'd be helpful, I can do, I can work with you to figure out how to do an email vote, but yeah, we might.
Yeah, and yeah, you all will need to, vote on those. Those will need to be through by May 15th for the ones that needed approval by the JCPC, so.
Hannah, you'll be able to get those out to us. We'll be able to vote by email. Will that be sufficient, Lorraine?
It depends on Buncombe County's policies, so I'll have to go look at those, but if not, you all could hold a brief special meeting just to vote on those. That would probably take 10 minutes.
Okay, so it's about 2.5 weeks at this point. If we need to schedule an emergency session to get things through briefly just for that, then we'd be able to do that. We could maybe do that by Zoom as well. So we'll let everyone know based on that here in the email in the next week or so.
That sounds good. And Hannah can go ahead and send those budget revisions out if she has, I can't remember if she had sent those already, and then
Not.
programs, can do those. So that sounds good.
Oh, Mo, can you leave the parking validations in case folks need them? Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you,
all for your
everyone.
good work.
It always goes longer than it does. It's like discussions that are needed.
Yeah, they are.
And we just don't have the time or the place and space to be able to address those. And,
Angel, you and I need to
I was
disagree.
gonna say, yeah.
You and I need to disagree about some of these soon. More people are-
Are we officially adjourned?
Yes.